G'day YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Looks like the weather's getting really nice in Melbourne here. Sunny morning, it's actually warming up quite nice on this weekend. So what I want to do today is show you the next steps in developing some black pines. Now please understand I'm not an expert in black pines yet, I'm working on it still, but what these were, there's actually 3 trees here. I'll show you them in closer detail soon. But what these were initially were big, tall, straight pole black pines that were in Barlock's nursery, and there was some nice demonstrations by Han on how to twist them up and bend them and so on and so forth. So I picked up a few of those trees and tried it myself. What I want to do, instead of a tall stick, we want to put lots of bends and twists into them. Now these are my attempts at trying to get bends in them. So this was probably done probably 2 or 3 years ago now. Now they're work in progress, but you can see all the bends and twists, and as they develop, I'm hoping they get closer together and start to fuse more closer together and get nice and tight. But you need to keep working on them. So you can see the bends a bit fake, or not fake. What's the word? Don't look that natural yet. So I'm hoping to really make it more interesting tree. Get these bends in different order and positions and depth and so on. So whilst I got some bends in it now, I mean this was probably, I don't know, a good metre or so tall when I first got it. So it's starting to thick up. You probably can see close up there's lots of wounds in there because of the wire cut in. No problem at all for pines, so don't worry about that. That should just make it all gnarly and more aged bark anyway. But what I want to show you now is, now you can see this part here. I'll try and show you. So whilst we've got the nice twist in here, this part is now getting straight, or too straight. So we want to get this tighter and have more interest in there, and this start to put some bends in it and twists in it, and get it nice and contorted again. Now the way I like to approach these is, I got to think about, what I think about is this apex, this leader is the most important to thicken the whole tree. You can have sacrifice branches, yep, and so on, but you need, for me, I think black pines need to have foliage if you want to grow them on. I don't know if that makes sense and if that's correct, but that's just what I find is the truth. You need to have long, big shoots going off. Don't cut them back, don't cut anything back. Just let these go off and take over, because these eventually, you'll never use these for your final tree. What I'll probably end up using is probably a small branch down here or a small branch here, and when you cut this back hard, when it's ready to be styled, it should bud back quite easily and encourage the lower branches to develop further. So that's my thinking. I'm sure there's some science behind that. I'm not the best knowledgeable in that, in horticultural, but I think that's roughly what you do. So what I do is I don't cut pretty much anything off these. I let them have as much foliage as you can, let them grow as much as you can, just let the tips grow, don't cut back, to start to form that up. So yeah, so plan is today is get some more interest in here, and there's 3 of them I want to do. So this is probably the skinniest maybe of the 3. But yeah, let's see if we can play around with some shapes and some interest and create some more dynamic bends in there and contort the tree somehow, some way, and then put small twists and bends into this bit, and then grow it on. And that's what the plan is. You know, this, I'm not looking at having a tree to really style for another 5 years on this. I think maybe in 5 years' time, if it puts out enough growth and heavy growth and really starts to take over, which I hope it will, which it should, then it'll be ready to be styled and looked at, you know, a first initial styling. But at the moment, let's work on creating good stock. Now that's what I love to do. It's a project, create good stock. You see how I do my shimpakus with the twisting and bending. Same process I want to go with the black pines. So let's see how we go, guys. Alright. So I'm going to start with this tree. Now in here, what I can see is it's pretty boring, and the curves are very contorted, or very, what's the word? They look very fake, they don't look natural. So what I want to try and do is create more interest in here and have it really twisting and tied up somehow. So what I was thinking is putting this back through underneath and coming out there. So I'm trying to think of how do you make really mountainous looking trees that you collect from the wild. They, all in Europe and America, they can collect this kind of stuff, or not black pines, but other pines and in nature that have contorted and so on. But we can't have that. We don't have that in Australia. So there's no chance we can do that with pines and junipers and stuff. But what if we can create that artificially, but try and make it look as natural as possible? So my thinking is to try and maybe thread that back through here, thread this loop back through here, maybe tighten up some of these curves, and just create something a bit more dynamic. So that's the thinking. So all I do, I have my wire ready. It's probably the heaviest gauge I can get. I think it's 5 or 6 mil, but that's for later. But have other pieces of wire ready, maybe some 3 to 4 mil ready, because I want to tie things in place. So when you maneuver them, you need to tie them into place. So I'll show you right now. So first off, I wanted to try and thread this through. Now there's a nice branch here that I want to thread through. So that's threaded through there. And it's almost making it locked in place. So now it's threaded in there, so you can see it's there, right? So I need to lock that in place. Just grab some bit of wire, and at this junction point I'm just going to tie that together. Just temporarily, so just to hold it in before I lock in everything away. So now, instead of those loopy loopies, now I've got something that's looped, comes back around, comes back, somehow threaded through back into there, and now comes out here. So it's almost, yeah, so try and create some interest and a bit more dynamic. So that's what I'm thinking. I've got this branch that's going to grow inside there. Maybe somehow that will be used in the future, and we can contort that. Maybe that could be the future tree, you never know. But at the moment I've just tweaked that inside that curve. That looks interesting. Let's play around with a bit more bending. So I recommend using pliers for this kind of work as well. It's much easier for the wire, that is. So when this grows further and heavier, that all fuse together and look really contorted and interesting, So that's the plan. So I'm gonna tie this in for now. I like it there. Now, as I mentioned, don't worry if the wire cuts in at this stage, it'll grow out. So that's a bit more interest there in this area here. So you can see it goes through in and out. Hey, let's see how that goes. It's going to be hard to do much with this. This is annoying, but because I put the bend in early, it's a bit too steep. I don't know how to explain it, a bit too steep. So maybe what I'll do is I might want to try and push this closer to the trunk and have that branch and that trunk maybe fused together in the future somehow. That could be of interest. At the moment there's a bit of a gap. So if that fuses all together, that might be interesting. I'm thinking also maybe compacting that shape a bit more just by a guy wire and tightening it slowly. That'd be interesting. First, let me tie it to this trunk because I want to try and get that to fuse in the future. Yeah, please note, there's no right or wrong here. Okay, it's what you imagine and what you can, what you want to play with. Don't ever think there's a right or wrong. That's what I always take away from this. This is, creation, being creative, trying to use your imagination and come up with something interesting. I'm just trying to show you some techniques that I've done to get this to happen. So now I've got that tied in close to that trunk and that together. Now let's see if I can fuse this, get this a bit closer. Now this might be a slow progress, eventually slowly in time, getting it closer together. let's see how we go here. So always use your pliers. So when you're doing it, your pliers just twist. Use your hands to bend the actual branch. Not too much. Okay, so I'm slowly getting it closer and closer together. So getting that space closer and closer. So I think just eventually that's getting very tight now. I really can't pull as much as I'd like. Now you can use a clamp or something like that if you got one, to slowly bring that closer together. I don't have one at the moment, but you can see what I'm trying to come up with. So I've tied that up there to make interest here, tied this closer in here to the trunk to make that closer. Now we're at a stage where we can try and bend this into interesting shapes. So I could probably start wiring from in there somewhere, and tie that tree up, which I might do, and then I'll come out all the way to the tip, and let's put some bends. I'm not worried about these side ones for now. Just let them go. That's how I think. Just let them go. Let it all thicken up the tree. You know, sometimes I think I've seen that just the leaders left on, and that just let grow. But yeah, I've just left everything. I just find the more foliage you have, the more tree will photosynthesize. So in theory, it should actually grow faster. But let's see how we go. So I'm going to put some wire on this. Let me put the wire on because it might take me a while, and I'll come back and show you how I bend it. Okay, so what I've done is I have wired up this main trunk. What I forgot to tell you is there's a technique where it's called massaging the branch, where you just bend it a little bit back and forward in your hands all along the trunk. I forgot to mention that, and then wire it up, and now you should be able to bend it. So my thinking is I want to, because this is now quite tight around here, I want to try and bring the tree back in over the top here somehow. So I want to try and bring it back in and sit the top over here, not out here. So that's the idea. I've wired the wire in the direction that I can bend it as well. So you got to make sure you wire it in the direction. So it's being wired this way because I want to wire it back around and around to the top. So let's see how we go. Sorry, going to wire it that way. So my plan is to try and wire it back up around. It's not going to move too much from here. So I'm going to just try and maneuver slowly, massaging it slowly. So what also I will be doing is trying to tie wires as we put the bends in, so it holds it in place a bit better. This wire is quite close together because the reason you do that is it almost acts like a spring, so it doesn't the branch doesn't snap. It's like treating it as like raffia, but not using raffia, of course. So let's try. So you can see it's already come up a little bit. So you can see I'm almost turned it all the way back on itself. So let's see, keep going a bit. But you can see it springs back a little bit, so that's what I mean by once we get to a position where we can, I'm going to tie that in to a certain spot so it holds it there, and then I can bring it around. So I'm just slowly massaging the tree. Hang on. Alright, sorry, I'm back. So what I was saying is I'm just trying to get this tweaked down, and then I'm going to try and get this to come back up. So you can actually see, put the big bend in that way and come back up this way. Pretty easy. That wasn't that hard to do. Now what I want to do is I want to tie this. So I want to tie these two closer together. Get this really close. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to use another guy wire. So I'll do that now. First I roughly tie it in. Now I press the trunk together. There's two branches. The trunk. And I just twist. So it's nice and close now. Much closer than it was before. So now you've got a much more contorted, really twisted up tree. Now I can actually go and twist this around again. So remember, I'm going side to side, side, back, right, forward, all different ways. Don't go just side to side. You need to make sure they go back and forward. So if I spin this tree around, you can see every dimension's pretty much factored in. Maybe there needs to be more side here, but if you look at it maybe from this angle, you can see the breadth of it all there. So, there you go. Cool. So I'm pretty happy with that. So I let these guys grow, doesn't matter. This is the apex I was talking about. There it is now. It's positioned back kind of whichever way you want to look at it. It's positioned back into here. I've twisted that all back in and compacted it in. So now you just let it grow. And you know what? You never know what comes out. So that's the beauty of this, trying to be creative, trying to experiment and trying to twist and bend things. But it's much better than a beanpole straight tree that you cut back to one first branch and try and grow that branch, and it takes forever. This is probably much more interesting. You never know what we can get out. Might be really contorted and twisty trunk eventually, which I want to try and get to. So there's my first one. Now I'm going to try and see what the other ones look like, and we'll have a look at those as well. So that's the first one done. And now I'll just go back, grow it on, feed it heavily, and see what happens. Okay, so that one's done. I'll just... Okay, so let's have a look at this one. This one's probably not as interesting. It's got a couple of it's not the prettiest one. So, and it looks like it's all one-sided, and it's not three-dimensional enough. So, I'm trying to think about how do I try and bring this back this way. Okay, and then maybe squeeze all these in much tighter to each other. And really try and compact those big twists and make it less springy. It looks a bit too springy. I've got some. I think I might have split that there a bit too much. I had some grafting tape just to hold that in place. But yeah, this one needs a bit more. Maybe I'll be a bit more savage with this one. Again, this is very long and straight, so we'll wire that up. Lots of leaves from the deciduous trees above it. Yeah, I want to try and get this to come back maybe this way a little bit, and contort and twist these back in heavily on itself somehow. Let's try and play around with some ideas. But yeah, you guys see the process that I've gone through. So I'm just going to try and play around with some ideas and bend it and twist it, and I'll just see how it goes. So I'm just seeing how flexible that base of that trunk is. So I'm thinking could be able to tie it to the pot. I'll make a hole in the pot and tie it there and bend it. And we might just think about when I plant it at a different angle, that would be the angle. So let's try and get all these twisted and bent. I really don't like this bit down here, so that's the question. I can do some nice things with this. Twist it back on itself. That will look good. That look interesting like that. But this thing is ugly. So let me just hold this in place first. And let's see what we can come up with. Oh, that's really hard to do, but... that's cool. That's nice and tight there, and there's some. It could fuse together and look really good. This is a bit. I need to figure out what I want to do here. This guy. Just looks ugly sticking out there. So we just have to try. I think I'm going to have to try and slowly move that around somehow. Back. Or just try and compress it to try and get it right back in, but I'd have to change the angle of the tree. So it isn't a problem. You can pull it out and put some soil under it, and it's not a problem at all. Probably a good idea. So if maybe I can do that. Maybe what I'll do is I'll tie the trunk this way to this, and then I'll bring that back in tight. So just gotta get a scissors. So just make a hole in the plastic pot. Let's see if this works. Get it around there. Remember, so I'm not too fussed about the damage on the trunk with the wire, as I mentioned. So, because that'll all grow out. Alright, I had to have a little break, but back into it now. It's almost over where I want it to be. I have to get a bit tighter. Okay, so that's a little bit better. See how it's just sticking out? The problem is it's just sticking out, doesn't do anything there, so I really have to try and crank this down. Well, it's going to be harder than I thought. This will be quite easy. Just do the same thing as we did before. Wire it up, bend it, should be no problem. That's nice and tight there. That's looking good. Yeah, that's going to be the problem. So, just trying to see if I can bring it this way. So I got it on the inside of the lip of the pot, so at least it's a start. So just trying to even bring it more closer and closer and closer. So you can leave it there for now, just for a little bit, so you can see how I'm trying to bring it in closer. This one has to come up a bit. It's alright. Now maybe I'm thinking to twist this back around itself, and maybe come into here. So maybe a little, all these twisted bit, and then a nice little tree in here eventually. So twisting that back around, come around, and come into here. So I'll wire that up and bend it around. I might be able to get some heavy wire on that, and we'll see what we can do about bringing that closer and tighter together. So let me just wire this guy up, and then I'll be back and show you how I twist it up again. Just remember, this is the massaging bit that we were talking about last time, massage. It's a term phrase by Han from bonsai. So you massage, massage, massage. So it's ready for bending. It actually works. It's quite a good technique. Okay. So anyway, that was massaging. So I'll be back after I've wired. All right. So I have wired up the main trunk. I did try and squeeze that in a bit more with a bit of with another guy wire in there, and I tried to bend it down a bit more. So we're trying to this issue. This is the bit that's an issue, and I've squeezed it actually together with another bit of guy wire to squeeze that in tighter. We'll play around with it in the future. Maybe it can be pushed in a different way. We'll see what happens. Yeah, we'll deal with it as we can. But now let's try and see if I can get this around. So it's starting to go right around now. What I want to do is I want to tighten this up, so I'm going to put another guy wire in there just to make that all nice and tight. So I'll do that now. So I'm using my left hand to hold where I want it to be positioned, and then I'm twisting with this slowly and pulling. Pull and then twist. Just hold it in place. So now that gap's reduced. It's all coming on itself, really nice. And then tweaking this. Might need another one. Might need another one here to back into here. Keep that nice and tight as well. I'll put one in here and here, and then I'll show you how it looks. So, have a look. That was right out there. Been able to twist it back in around itself, come right in and make another nice little possible tree this way. So just to give a bit of interest, I might even compact that even more. It's just a matter of slowly compacting in. So there. Got lots of nice long branches and stuff that we can grow, but that's much more contorted and tight and could be really interesting in the future. So how's that? Hope that shows you some sort of contrast. You need to use a lot of tie wires or tie guy wires, whatever you call them. You can see wire everywhere. As I said, don't worry too much. This is all going to grow out and thicken up, 3-4 times the size of the trunk now. So those marks are going to go in the future. So this guy will shoot off, that guy will shoot off. Hopefully expand the tree. So that's that one done. Now, last one. Oh, this is probably the thickest of them all. And what's happened now is this tree is getting quite heavy up here, which is good, but look how straight it is and long. So it's actually probably the thickest, but it probably doesn't have as much bends in it, and it's kind of starting to there's no gaps in between the trunk, so it's just sitting on each other. So sometimes you want to actually see a gap, and so this is a bit different. Even though I might want to twist some things nice and tighter in, I want to try and add a little gap into the spaces, so the tree doesn't just sit on each other and compress too much. Because if you sit like that, they're just going to compress in there, and I don't know, it doesn't look as good if you want to try and tall tree. You want to have a little bit of a gap, possibly. That's one thought, but I do want to try and get this a bit tighter, because it looks very, again, not a very natural twist. You want to make it look very natural. This doesn't look natural at all. So I might have to do a guy wire in there to the trunk to try and bring that in. And what I'm thinking is actually try and put a little spacer in there. Now, I'm not thinking anything but something like that. Just a bit of whatever you got around that's firm. So you put a space in there, wire it up, and hopefully the tree will actually grow and set in that spot. So that's what I'm thinking. That's just a bit of pine bark, a big chunky piece, or you can use whatever else you can use, anything to create that space. But I don't want to put it in there now, but once I'm ready to set it, then I'll put it in and wire where it should go. Then we need to try and, what are we going to do with the rest of this tree? It's very, very tall. Do we have a tallish tree? Or, a bit more interesting, do we have it keep going? Maybe there's a cascade in there, I don't know. So actually maybe, could be something interesting. Or I really like little, even though this is all twisty and so on, so this is all kind of on this side, I still like a little tree on maybe over here eventually. So I really need to twist it in and really coil it around. So we're going to be a bit tricky because this tree, instead of going that way, it's growing this way. So unless we go reverse, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Or can I bring it? I don't think I can bring it back the other way. So I might have to just keep going with this way. Yeah, so we'll have to work it out. So we'll come back and have a look at that one in a few seconds. Sorry everyone, I didn't realise it wasn't recording, and all I did was put some, you probably seen me do that before, I've tried to tie that in and squeeze that in, squeeze that one a bit tighter in there, and then I put my little bit of bark in there to separate it, and I've tied that to the trunk. So I'm sorry about that, but I thought I was recording, and it turns out I wasn't. So all I did was try and make that tighter and closer together, and now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this top bit. So let's have a look. It's going to be hard to get it to come back this way. So it's got to, because this branch grew that way and it wasn't really wide, and I'm going to find it way too hard to bring it in. So I'm trying to toy up with options in terms of, do I keep going, do I bend that even more backwards and then bring the whole tree forward? That's what I'm thinking at the moment, is bring that all back and then I'll bring the tree back. Or I just try and make a bit more of a taller tree in this one. So yeah, let's play around with some more ideas. But I might have to wire this guy up now, and then I'll position it and see what I can do with it. And then maybe that will help us decide what we do in this section here. So you can see this section, it looks too uniform. So I want to try and do something different with that. So yeah. maybe make it longer, change it up. Even that's too straight there. So, yeah. Anyway, let me wire that main trunk and then we'll see what we can come up with. Alright, so I've wired the main trunk. I've decided to just leave that one as it is, and I've just tied a little bit of a spacer into that. I just want to leave it there. I wasn't sure what to do, so I'm going to leave it in that position, but I've tied it. I want to put a bit of a space in there. Now I'm going to see what I can do with this section here. It's going to take a bit of bending, this one. I've used the thickest wire I can, which I think was the 6mm that I've had. So I need to just make it a bit more flexible. Again, I'll be using tie wires to tie things when they're in the right spot. Just checking I'm not cracking the bark at all. It's pretty solid, pretty firm. So I think I can put that right back here and put a tie wire to tie this bit to that bit quite easily. So you can see how much I've bent it right around now. It's pretty much all the way up here. Now it's right down here and right back on itself almost. So it's just slowly manipulating it. Right, I'm going to tie that in. Now I want to try and get that to come back, maybe sit up here. I'm tying this a bit more. Oops, hear that? Luckily, it didn't go all the way through. Let me just check it. Yep, so that's fine. That was just it sounded bad, but that's quite okay. It's not bad at all. We'll just finish that off. That's what you're listening for. So just let me check it again. That's cool. It's only a slight crack. I'll show you what if I can pinpoint it for you. So that's okay. So now it's a bit more crazy and twisty and could be almost like a little radi eventually. Or we could go this side as well. That could be very interesting too. So that's quite nice. A bit more contorted, but a bit more uniform, but you never know how that all forms and positions itself. Just so in here is the only thing, it looks a bit too fair, like it's a bit too widely spaced. I want to maybe compact that even more, or maybe the next time, because the wire's in the wrong place for that. we'll try and tweak this around a bit more. Cool. So yeah, that's fine. Just checking the damage on the crack, and I'll show you it hasn't cracked all the way through. That's the most important thing. If it's a slight crack, it's okay. You can just you put even grafting tape or something like that around it, so you can see what I mean. I'll show you it. Really just don't like this bend here. It doesn't look good. If we could do something like that, it'd be a bit better. But that's not going to bend. Maybe this will eventually be more the interesting front. Could come back and could be all the way around and come back sitting under here maybe eventually as well. That might be an idea. Maybe bring it back this way. Yeah, could be. Actually, that's not a bad idea if it comes back and sits in there somehow, maybe. So, be very interesting to see how this tree develops. But at the moment, it sprung back in, didn't it? I want to try and maybe a bit more gap. Let's try and twist that further down. That's better. That's getting nice and tighter. Maybe more interesting. There you go. So what we've done is taken a big branch over here, twisted it and compacted it even further. Whereas probably this was the original front, maybe. Maybe one of these branches will come up and be the new, you know, you can see a nice little tree there maybe. They'll form and sit under there, you know. But what we want to do is bring that big branch down, position it in a spot that looks more interesting. I'll just put a bit of probably some seal on that little crack there, and that'll be it. But yeah, so there's another one, a bit more wild, a bit more heavier this one. But yeah, you can see what I'm trying to say. So let's have a look. I love to have project trees and twist and bend things and see how they come up. So putting spaces in this tree, that's something a bit different. Yeah. Play around with it, see what you come up with. Excellent. So I'll just show you the little crack that happened. So let me just try, hopefully I can get in there. Where is it? Ooh, can I see it? You can just see the little crack there. So that hasn't cracked all the way through. You can just see the little tiny crack there, and that's pretty much it. That's all that happened. But anyway, it's fun and games. So there you go, guys. Something a bit more funky and cool. Alright guys, so that's another video done about growing good stock and good trees, and hopefully we will see you guys again soon. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and press the notification bell so you can always get notifications of new videos when I put them up. Alright guys, enjoy. Thanks for watching.